working. That's good.
But we still don't have a headlight, and the tail light's just a cover, and we need to do all that other good jazz. I don't think I've really used the table in any of these videos, have I? It's been a while. Let's go get the table. Table's fun.
The Baja Designs dual sport kit with LED headlight. Look at this thing, dude. This is a lot more than just a headlight. As you can see, there's all kinds of stuff on the back here. We got a key ignition, we got all kinds of wires, a horn, there's a little battery back here, tail light. Woo! I sit on the floor to be in this shot. You know what? Do it with Dan here. This is a kit that's going to plug right into the bike. Is it going to be complicated? No, not really. We have a lot of connectors in here that can only connect to certain things. We have instructions that we're going to follow. Only a few small things you have to kind of like maybe drill or think of a location for something. All the main components sit on this board here, which sits behind the headlight. Insanely bright LED headlights, like the Squadron Pro. This thing puts out a stupid amount of light from what I understand. We've already stolen a few parts out of it, or is it just one? We stole the pressure sensor banjo bolt and put it on the rear. But that's what we're gonna focus on, just this. It will be all street legal, which is more than I can say when I got it, even though it is plated somehow. Step 1, assemble the quantum drive fusion power parallel in series to coupler B/D. See, I told you stuff's simple, guys. Don't freak out. I think so funny. Instructions are really, really simple. In fact, I was actually trying to find the wiring diagram. That was the first thing I wanted to go into, was looking at the wiring diagram. And they don't even have this. They don't even have it because they just want you to just follow the directions. I don't think they want you trying to do something else. They just want you to follow directions. There's a lot of very bike specific stuff in here. Also a lot of stuff multiple times telling you do not try to put it on this bike on page 1, 2, 3, and 10. All of them are telling you multiple times to get a different kit if you're trying to put this kit on the wrong bike. I like that though. They're really, you can tell they had to do that because people have definitely bought the wrong kit or probably tried to take one off one bike and put it on another bike. I don't think this video is going to take very long. I think we'll actually be, this is going to be a pretty fast project here. So, you know, as Philip DeFranco would say, let's just jump into it. Step 1 is take the tank and the headlight and all the stuff off that we already have off the bike. Moving on down the list, they actually want you to start from the tail then and move forward. So that means we need to start with the tail light. So I'm going to go ahead and drill out. There's some blank spots here on both sides, so I'm going to try to find a spot that seems to make the most sense, and then we'll do our best to make sure we match that on the other side. I did this side, I left the drill basically flat on the ground, so we know to get the height right, I basically just need to leave it also on the ground. Just do a quick measurement for the other one. Okay. Use this corner here to a little mark. Let's feed in our turn signals. Be sure you put the left one on the left and the right one on the right. I'm just kidding, they're the same thing. There's two different versions of this kit. There's one that's LED and then there's one that's not. I've seen a lot of people running the non-LED kit. That one's been around for years. That's a solid kit. You guys know me, I love LED stuff. It's the future, man. Gotta go with the LEDs. I always like to put a little bit of heat shrink wrap around the end of these connectors. See, there's always a little bit of exposed wires here. Probably is overkill, but whatever. I'm going to do the same thing to the tail light. It's not really even water is the reason I do this. I don't want mud and stones and crap flying up and hitting the wires and breaking them. Now we might have to cut these off later when we actually go to mount this thing on the bike. They give you some hardware to mount your plate. This plate will actually get replaced when I do the registration on the bike. I know they're gonna give me a new one, but we'll go ahead and use it now because the holes should be the same. They also give you one of these, which is nice, but fortunately they are illegal in Texas. And you know, we're all about legality, but they do give you this, which I think is pretty cool. This is just a piece of plastic that would go against the plate, and for me that's actually great because I want to mount it sideways and your plate tends to flap around and you do that, and I've actually sheared numerous plates in half because of this. I'm going to use this as like my little template though right now. I'm doing a lot of this now because I know once this is up on the bike it's hard to deal with, but it's just a little easier now, so we'll go ahead and just get this sort of squared away. put the bike on one of the stands. Better to do this not on the kickstand with the bike leaning, because we need to put this thing on here. We can't have it all cockeyed, you know, we gotta try to get this, you know, in somewhat of a normal place. We also have to hope that the exhaust doesn't melt this turn signal off. I don't think it will. I know it would look really cool to mount it really far back, so it's kind of hidden, low profile. But you want it to be seen. We don't have to have it sticking way out, because I do plan to power this one in the next video. This thing right now has nothing in it. When you get the UFO kit, this is like completely blanked out, but I have an idea to modify this thing to take a bulb. Mounting it way back though might look kind of cool, but I can tell you the light is harder to see like that, and the tire could possibly hit this on a good jump. So we want to get it forward, near about flush with this looks really good. It's just making sure we get it sort of left to right good. And the thing is, you can make yourself mental with this stuff, but I think at the end of the day, you just got to kind of get it what looks to be really close. Plastic's firm, but it's not quite as firm as the fender. This will sort of mold the things, but they give you these nice long tails, which are going to go down and connect here, and you have 4 bolts. So obviously 2 are going to sit right here by it, and 2 more down here. Now, I think what we can do for right now is we can look at this, and I can see that it really needs to be on this sort of flat portion of it is where these 2 bolts need to mount. And knowing that, I think what I can do is go over to the bench, line these up, use my measuring stuff like I did before, and gently put 2 holes in, evenly spaced here, drill them out to match, and then we can come back up here, kind of line this up, and then add those holes into the fender, carefully. I was starting to make a little template to something I could line up and square up on here and lock in place, and I just found this old license plate. I think this will work. Kind of mark the center of these. There we go, and this will help me on the bike too to drill it. I'm gonna start with this really little bit because there's already wiring below here, and I need to be cautious of that.
Look, using my calculations here.
So no worries. And then I can take my license plate here, stick that over it, and if I've done it right, yeah, that's there. Make sure we're pretty even left to right. A finger and a half. I'm not talking about your sister here. You could spend like all day trying to make sure this is 100%, and like I said, you'll make yourself mental. At some point, you gotta go, yeah, I think I've got it, drill it, and just be done with it. I mean, honestly, if I stand back and look at this whole fender, it looks like it's slightly tweaking to one direction already anyway. Tail end is done. The next thing in the directions has to do with is setting up the switches on the brakes. I have a mechanical switch from our Moto Master kit, and we already have the wiring done here. So those are already in place. Next bit of the instructions is to grab the one here. It says Dual Sport Mid Kit. This part should sit about here. We may end up pulling up more of it later. Once it's now follow the stock wiring harness. This is why I haven't zip tied any of this yet, because I knew we were gonna be adding this guy. Wires up. Now it tells us to go to the rear sport kit, I can't talk. The wiring harness, dual sport kit rear harness. Woo! That's the 6-pin connector from the rear wiring harness to its corresponding mate from the middle wiring harness. Oh, this is kind of exciting. 3-pin plastic connector from the rear harness to its corresponding mate from the tail light. Being a mechanic, you know, it's like a good bit of it's just reading a direction. Green and black wire to the right turn signal. I don't know which one's which. I don't even know if I can tell at this point. I might have to guess and just, if they're wrong, we'll switch them. Not only could I have these switched, I could have the polarity switched on. I don't think I am. Trying to do it what looks to make sense, but you know, the good news is if I'm wrong, it's not like it's gonna, you know, like blow the wiring out or something crazy. It wants me to route this one down to this brake switch, which looks like there's like a perfect amount of room for that, which is nice. It'd be like the most legit Supermoto I've ever had. Secure your wiring with zip ties. Trim those up in a minute. Most of the rest of it was actually really easy to kind of stick in here. It seemed like there was a lot of extra. I have this wire right here left over, and I'm almost positive it's going to be the one that plugs into that. But the instructions actually have me jumping to the front now. We're going up here. Funny, it just calls this the turn signal switch, even though it's clearly like the turn signal high, low, beam, and horn switch. But you know, that's all right. It tells you to go ahead and get this in place. Says you may have to move the clutch over, but if you notice, everything already fits because I actually had pulled this out of the package when I installed this and made sure we had room for it. Since I'm trying to do this in kind of an order and show you guys step by step, it's just little things like this. I would have actually installed this and just have the wiring set up here when I put the clutch on, just so I knew I had room, right? But you know, I had to wait until we were at this video. Otherwise, I would have gotten confused. You would have been like, Jake, you put the turn signals on, but we didn't hook them up to anything. And for whatever reason, when we do get it completely tightened on here, if it still wants to rotate a little bit, an easy trick to do is to pull it back off and put a single layer of electrical tape around, put it back on and try it from there. And just do one at a time. In fact, sometimes you might only have to put a half piece of electrical tape. The great thing is the electrical tape is like the perfect size for this. Run a wire down and can't interfere with this guy. What is this thing called? I forgot already. A manual decompression lever, I knew that. Oh yeah. It's not a problem. It's a little funny looking right there. And all cleaned up with a few zip ties. It's not so bad. Yeah. Next up, they want you to install your keyed ignition. Mine was already on the headlight. I just disconnected it and brought it over here. I think I'm gonna use this guy right here. This is a threaded hole that held something on the stock one. I think that weird little factory speedometer. So I've got me a bolt with some Loctite and a washer. Now, if you're looking at this and thinking, oh, I don't know, Jake, it's just one little bolt right there on top. Into your ignition, you know, is someone gonna steal this and hotwire it? So I'll tell you how bikes work. You can have the most secure shit in the world, but when people go to steal it, they just take it. You know, they just steal it. Bikes aren't really like cars in that sense. So, nah, this is fine. There we go. The next things on the instructions I'm seeing all have to do with wiring on the actual headlights. So, strap the lower ones up for right now. Kind of hang the thing forward so I can still access the wiring. It's in the directions a few pages later that you actually mount this thing. But like I said, I'm just gonna go ahead and stick it half up on there because they're asking for me to connect things that are already pre-wired into the back of this. So it's just simpler to go ahead and have this sitting over in place. It shouldn't affect anything. So yeah, there we go. I really don't want a big tail of this hanging out, something you catch your skin on, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, I'm gonna cut 6 little nubs off. It's gonna make it a little harder to start this one, but we'll go back and trim this one too, then we won't have a big tail hanging out. And now you don't have a big old tail sticking out. Do that to all of them. Like I got like a hinge door on here now. All right, now it's telling me to hook the kill switch back up, so this way the kill switch and the key will kill the ignition, which is good because it means you want to be able to pull your key out, and it's like basically having the kill switch button permanently pressed down. There's a handful of instructions on here just telling us to connect all these different connectors to where they go. I could read that to you, but it's pretty straightforward on this part. I got this one green connection up here, and this is like extra AC power off of the stator for the other sides. I'm gonna put a little bit of electrical tape around this and just kind of tape it over just so it doesn't make contact with anything up in here. The only thing I can see that's not plugged into anything is my brake line thing, and I don't see anything that claims if it plugs into this or not. Let me go look at the directions, see if I can find where the brake light goes. I don't see anything in the paperwork about it, and I can't find any connector up there. And so I'm thinking is they actually only rock off of a rear brake switch, which is kind of goofy. So this was something we weren't using in the kit, and it's got the exact connectors I need, so it'll keep kind of a clean look to it. I know my WR never had it where the front brake light actually turned the brake lights on, and I don't think it's a big deal, but I told myself on this one, I really want that to fully work, and so that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna make it work. It's gonna be great. Cool thing with the wiring we were doing on here too, we really can't mix these two up. All we're doing is tapping this into where wires come up off the rear brake switch, and all these are doing is making a connection. So that's all these will do, and it'll be just fine. Y'all gonna laugh at me, but this works really well. Slightly uncomfortable. Kind of feed it in a direction we know it's gonna go. This red and blue wire is what we need to tap into, and I'm just gonna use some of these guys. You basically put one wire in one end, and these, again, the polarity to our wires here doesn't really matter. There it goes. This wire is followed with the rest here, and it comes up here, and here's our other set of wires. Doesn't really matter which way we plug them in, and just like that now, that'll work. One of the final things we're going to plug in is this white and yellow wire to our white and green wire. This is what's going to give us our power. What I will do is try to tuck the rest of these wires into the little loom down here. The most important thing when doing professional wiring is just to hide all your wiring really well. Then no one will know. Kind of joking. So I want to point out here, I've checked with the seat on and off here a few times. None of these wires are actually going to be touched by the seat where I've got them routed right here. I just got to watch that the bolt when it goes in isn't going to make contact with these wires. I don't want it rubbing up against them. I got to be careful when I zip tie up the top here because there's these little planks that sit against this top rail up here from the seat. So what I've done here is I've wrapped a zip tie around it loosely, then used a piece of tape to kind of persuade the wires to stay in this direction. And they're pretty firm there. They don't seem to want to move. I don't know if this is the greatest solution, but it seems to work pretty well. There's just not a lot of room to really tuck the wires into any other spots. It's not going to be crimping them, putting way too much pressure against them. I don't really want to drill any more holes into this. Definitely a lot of wires to secure. I'm going to turn the bars in this direction because this puts the most tension on this. We're going to clean up this wiring. I do have this connection right here that goes to nothing. I see nothing in the directions about it. I also have this two open ones right here. I haven't tested this little 3-pin connector, but the 2-pin connector, I get nothing. But if I flip the key on, I get like 3 volts. Also, I noticed if I put the key on, I'm not getting any headlight, but I am getting the faintest, oh, that was the horn making a chirp, the faintest bit of power, and now there's no power hardly coming off this thing. So, because the deal is, from this point, I should be able to turn the key on and kind of lightly test everything. And I think the thing is that this kit's been in my garage for a few months. I think the little battery on board, it's just, yeah, obviously it's not meant to start the engine. It's a very small battery, so I think it's just big enough to jump off like the lights or something if the engine was just running. So, as everything's connected, I'm gonna fire it up real quick and see if we can't get everything to work. Then we'll button the hood up, as I'm gonna call it. Done this correctly, you should see some serious shit. This is just running light. There's your regular light, and there's your high beam. Oh yeah, I forgot. I didn't know it was gonna have like that running light, because the way this headlight is working is it's only got one light in it. You know, I mean, it's got 4 LEDs, but it's not like it's 2 are low and 2 are high or anything like that. It's just an incredibly bright LED light, and what happens is you have, I guess, different power things. I think it's up here in the corner, there's basically a dimmer. So now I just gotta clean up the wiring in the front, cleaned up the rest of it, and this thing's done. I believe these are the ones I can use for my switch power. So these ones I'll just kind of leave here, and for the next video we'll have to tap into these for the dash and for the fan. This is a wire to the dash. I think when I mount the dash on there, I'm gonna try to get it kind of in this area, just mainly to cover some of this up. It's not terrible looking by any means, but like, it would be nice if you saw a little less. Not necessarily too impressive. That's because it's just the park light. Look at this field over here. Oh my gosh, Baja, this light is ridiculous. Dude, look at this. Oh, I've never had a light this bright. I gotta put it down, I'm about to turn. I just filmed like the first ride of the motorcycle and put it on the interwebs. I was gonna do like a reveal thing. You know, I think in the public version, I'm just gonna show me showing the light, and you Patreons will get these. You'll get to see the exclusive first ride held by my hand while I do this. You know? The dual sport kit is installed, and I think it's pretty sharp looking. I still have a little bit of electrical work to do in the next video, but it's very minor things. Like you'll see, it's just a few little things here and there. The important thing is the main heavy duty stuff is done, and it wasn't that bad. No one likes electrical work, but come on, this was pretty easy all in all. I did call Baja Design Zone, asked them about We had the three pin plug that wasn't going to anything, and those 2 male and females that weren't going to anything. And apparently the 3-pin plug was to go into some kind of speedometer that I don't even think they make anymore, or somebody made. He said it's basically just tape it off, don't worry about it. The other one is also an obsolete thing, but there is switch power coming off of it, and I asked him, can I use that switch power to power the fan? He didn't want to directly tell me yes, but you know, kind of chatting with him, he's like, I just don't know, you know, how many amps it pulls. Here's the thing, this thing has got its own fuse in it. So if we pull too much and I realize it's blowing the fuse, which I don't think it will, but in case it does, we'll just switch it to a relay setup. I don't think it's gonna pop that fuse. Yeah, awesome kit from Baja Designs. Super cool, I'm hooking it up. I'm gonna be blinding people on the SM rides. It's gonna be crazy. Can't breathe, man. I feel like I have to sneeze so hard. My shop lights are good for this. I know this project is taking a lot longer than it was supposed to. A lot of that had to do with my own life situations, not necessarily the work, although we have done a ton of work on here. I know some people give me a hard time lately saying, oh, it's taking you a million videos to do this build. But I feel like if you go back and look through them, we do a lot. Considering where this bike was to where it is now, like, I'm like, nah, I come out here at night, look at this thing, and drink a beer, and I go, things are taking a minute, but here's something you should know. Next video, which I'm gonna, like I said, start filming right now, consecutively, should be it. It should be the last video. I've got everything here I need to finish it. Got all the parts. There's still a good little bit of small things to button up on it, but should be done. I'm sure there's things I'm gonna have to tweak and play with, but then it'll be like a reveal video, and then it'll be hooligan stuff, and then probably another project after that. I'm keeping this one. I know there's a lot of questions. People say, are you just gonna get rid of this thing when you're done? No, not this. This one's staying in the garage. I don't know about whatever I get next or whatever we mess with. I know that I'll do another project, but no, this one's got too much work in it, and I like it too much at this point. I'm gonna go dump this SD card and get right back to work. You will see me wearing this shirt in the beginning of the next video. Sure, go check it out. Big Red Pig merch. Description down below.